Hello. So a few people have asked me to talk about a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and I'm going to level with you. I never really got into Game of Thrones that much. I watched it when it first came out because one of my loved ones really wanted to watch it with me, and so I did. And I enjoyed it as much as you enjoy anything, whilst the drama was happening before the drama became a conversation in a conference room for some reason. And I don't know a huge amount about the background lore, like the game world. I'm such a gamer. The fictional world of Westeros. The game world. Oh my goodness me. Oh, I've been playing too much Fallout. There's no such thing. Anyway, jingle jangle. I don't know a huge amount about the lore of the fictional world, but I know it takes a very long time to write it, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a prequel to Game of Thrones. It's set before Game of Thrones, and it's based off a series of novellas that George R.R. Martin wrote in the 90s, I believe. And they seem like good fun, and they follow Dunk, who is a hedge knight, a knight errant in the real world terms, if you will, and his squire Egg, who's a young lad, who's bald, who looks like an egg. And the TV series effectively is kind of the start of that saga, where I'm not going to spoil it, but it involves a tournament, and it involves Dunk fighting in a tournament and engaging with members of the nobility of the world of Game of Thrones. And it borrows very heavily from sort of late medieval, especially tournament culture. It has this kind of 15th, 16th century tournament look to it, which is kind of the height and then the very end of tournament culture in Europe. It was very popular from like the 12th to the 16th century, and then it kind of peters out. And it looks a lot better, costuming-wise, than a lot of medievally inspired TV and film. A lot of things like The Winter King, Vikings, The Last Kingdom, King and Conqueror look extremely generic. And I've done oodles of videos about it, about the generic black leather look, about the greyification of the medieval period, and by and large this show doesn't do that. We do get the blue colour grading, which is used as a kind of generic oldie-worldy cold time colour grade, which does take people out sometimes. It takes me out of it sometimes, because I will see that on, for example, an undyed linen tunic. Dunk and Egg in this wear a lot of undyed linen, and as soon as it has that cyan tint to it, I immediately get taken out of the world, because I'm like, oh, that's colour grading. It's really obvious colour grading. They're just doing the generic, it's cold, and they're wearing one layer of linen, because apparently they don't know how to layer. So that's taken me out of the fictional world. It's just a thing that is effective for me, effective and affective, I suppose, in a way. It affects me. Anywho, the costuming generally, like I say, the costuming generally is pretty damn good in this. It's effective, and I honestly think that Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon costume medieval Europe better than most historical fiction set in medieval Europe. I genuinely believe that. They are coherent in their costuming. If we are looking at the wall, people look like they are stationed on the wall. If we are in the north, people are dressed in a way that is suitable for the north. If we are elsewhere, people are dressed culturally for that culture and that place and their own culture in that world, which you don't see enough of in medieval historical dramas, where Tudors are wearing trousers and Greeks are wearing trousers, and that kind of thing. People are wearing black leather. Everybody is just wearing generic greys, browns, and black leather, and it's boring, and it's lazy, and I hate it. I'm fine. All is well. Anyway, the series follows Dunk, who is a hedge knight, who inherits Arlen, the older knight's kit and equipment and horses. Arlen, we see him at one point wearing this, what I can only describe as leather wicker vest. It's like a basket work vest made of leather, and it's gross. I'm 99% sure that has appeared in a medieval historical drama at some point, but I can't find it in my reference photos, but it kind of looks similar to Floki's weird leather wicker vest thing in Vikings. It's nasty, and it has no place in a historical drama, but this is a fantasy world, and so maybe this is his kink. But by and large, Dunk's clothes look fine. Like, he's wearing a tunic most of the time, he's wearing a pair of trousers, and he's wearing a pair of leather boots. There is a problem with layering. Like I say, in medieval Europe, layering was practiced. You would have a linen layer or a fine wool layer next to your skin, and then you would have wool layers outside that to keep you warm and to keep you dry and to keep you waterproof. You'd then top it off with a cloak or a hood or both. We do see both Dunk and Egg wearing hoods, but there is a scene in the rain where Dunk isn't wearing a rain hood or a cloak of any kind, but he is holding a sword at his hip, and you're like, maybe cover that. Maybe cover that so it doesn't rust. Just a thought. So I would like to see more layering. I'd have liked to have seen him wearing like a nice wool tunic over his linen tunic. Linen tunic, his linen look tunic. But by and large, like he looks like a big bulky dude who is a knight, who is trained in combat. He looks the part. He sort of dressed the part. His trousers are really interesting. There is a scene where we see Dunk and Egg sitting against a tree horsing into some snackage, and the bottoms of his trousers, or brays, are open, and there's a tie at the bottom, which suggests that his pants are meant to tie onto something, or that they're meant to tie at the bottom of his legs or at the base of his knees, heavily implying that these are actually brays, not hose. And brays are effectively medieval underpants. They're long linen pants that you sometimes see with ties at the bottom so that they can tie around your ankles or your knees to stop them from riding up and bunching, which gives you a load of bunching under your hose, which are like separate trouser legs effectively. Instead of them bunching, you want them to be nice and snug and fitted to your calves to emphasise how shapely your legs are, right? So it looks like these are just brays. His boots in this scene, they are leather boots, but they have this intriguing spiral seam up them. And that seems quite impractical. They don't seem like particularly practical horse riding boots, and he does a lot of riding in this. I don't ride unless I absolutely have to, unless I'm fleeing a large monster and only a horse will do. I tend not to bother. I feel bad for the horses. It's nothing against the guys. I just feel bad that they have to have me on their back. I'd feel bad if anybody had to have me on their back, but I don't know if these are good-looking riding boots. I don't know enough, but they seem weird to me. The spiral seam up them seems odd. That seems like an unnecessary complication. Egg, by and large, is wearing a tunic, geometrically cut, fairly shapeless tunic. Robe sometimes appears to be worn over it, and he has a nice long cloak, which looks like a riding cloak or a boat cloak. It's very long, very elegant. We like long, elegant cloaks in our fantasy, apparently. Cloaks come in all shapes and sizes depending on which period you're from. So, you know, in this period of Westeros' history, clearly long cloaks are de rigueur. And the main baddie is Aerion. I think Aerion Targaryen. And I've done a lot since I watched it, and I'm not going to watch it again. He looks great. I'm not going to lie, I think he looks really slick in this show. We have some amazing shots of him wearing a very long, dark cloak, and normally I'm not a fan of the two brooches holding the cloak on thing, like you see a brooch here and a brooch here and a chain in between them. That's overdone, that's very tropey, and in IRL medieval Europe, that was not how men's cloaks were generally shut. Generally, cloaks were closed with one brooch at the shoulder, and you do see the two brooch thing later on in the especially 18th and 19th centuries. I think it looks really slick, I think it looks really cool, especially on horseback. I think the drape is beautiful. He's wearing mail, and when I zoomed in, the guy is wearing riveted mail. He is wearing actual riveted chainmail. Like, this is, as an authenticity bod in a reenactment society, this is what I encourage my members to wear, is riveted mail. Butted mail, where the links are just prized open and then clamped shut again, that's a thing. It's not the main way mail was made in medieval Europe. So to see somebody wearing riveted mail in a fantasy show is chef's kiss good. That is extremely good. HBO, why didn't you do this for King and Conqueror? Why didn't you put this level of effort into the actual historical drama that you made last year with the BBC? Explain yourselves. Why Kansas but not Arkansas? I do actually know the answer to that. It's because of indigenous languages. Anyway, he looks sick. The weird bit about his mail is underneath that, below that, over his hips, he seems to be wearing almost like a bandeau of butted mail. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Two different gauges of mail being worn at the same time is bizarre, but it's a fantasy show, so we forgive. His horse looks good. The barding and the armour on his horse looks good, and you don't get to say that very often. Did we notice the tiny little leaves on his boots that complement the brooches on his cloak? I noticed them. Well done, costume designer. He wears mail a lot, though, our Aryan Targaryen. He wears mail a lot. He wears mail at one point, apparently just as like a casual shirt, with a nice velvet, like, jacket. Don't just wear mail as a casual shirt on your skin. You should have something under your mail. It is metal, and the rivets will chafe. Like, you will get jogger's nipple. Like, jogger's nipple amundo from your chafing mail. It is not comfortable. Don't ask me how I know. Definitely wear underpants under your mail. Just trust me. Anyway, he by and large looks really cool. In his actual fighting armour, by and large, the tournament armour in this looks incredibly effective. I agree with... somebody left a comment. I'm so sorry, I can't find your comment at the moment. YouTube's being weird, as ever. But you talk about how you really like that they use different colours other than silver for the armour, and it's absolutely true. The armour in this isn't just, like, gunmetal grey or burnished silvery metal. Aryan is wearing black armour that looks really, really good. Stefan Fossaway is wearing, like, this sort of bronze-coloured armour. Lionel Baratheon is wearing gold-coloured armour-ish. But, yeah, Dunk's armour is a mail shirt. He puts on a nice helmet. I think it's a barbute. If we were going to give it a real-world name, I'd classify it closest to a barbute. Which again is a late medieval type of helmet. He wears a gorget, he wears a throat protector, upper chest and throat protecting plate, a gorget, and of course vambraces, because it's a fantasy show, and in a fantasy show, your forearm must always be protect. Always protect your forearms. And which is ironic, because by and large in certainly early medieval Europe, the forearms were the bit of you that weren't protected, and that's where we get an awful lot of the injuries to bones that we dig up. Anywho, generally he looks fine. It's nice to see men holding shields. It's nice to see people using their shields in combat, because so often you don't see that. Even in medieval shows, people will just wade into battle holding a sword or two, asking to be stabbed because they're not covering themselves with a shield. The shields, some of them have notches in them, which we do see in tournament shields in late medieval Europe. Some of them are quite small, which again we see in tournaments because they're usually sort of slotted onto your armour, and then you ride in down the list with your lance couched when you're jousting, and the shield is effectively there as a target for the other man's lance. The black armour with the fluting that Aryan is wearing, I think looks fantastic. It puts me sort of in mind of the fluted and ridged Gothic armour that we see in Europe in the sort of 15th century and 16th century. It looks really, really cool. And it looks like armour. It looks like actual to-be-used armour. On top of the helmet, we have the weird, like, fiery crystals, and you do see weird helmet toppers in late medieval tournaments. You see them in high medieval tournaments as well, with people with, you know, dogs and cats and sausages and antlers and you know, the face of Gary Lineker on top of their helmet. And it's nice to see that being done in the show, because it gives it that medieval pageantry look to it. I think by and large, Aryan's armour, super cool. It looks practical. The elbows are very, very good. I think the elbows look like armour. His helmet, I think, is very effective. With the visor up, I think it looks really cool. And in particular, I like that we see rivets on it. Rivets on armour and helmets make it look like metal. You can kind of tell in things like The Last Kingdom that the helmets aren't actually metal, that they're just floppy, that they're normal. Rivets really help to sell the illusion that your helmet is made of metal. So, again, kudos to the design team, kudos to the wardrobe department, and the armourers looks absolutely sick. The armour being worn by Lionel Baratheon, I think it's Lionel Baratheon, anyway, the guy with the antlers, right? I think it's him. Looks good. The shape of the armour is good armour. It doesn't look like gold or gilt or bronzed armour. It looks like it's been sprayed that colour. And I think that's just an issue maybe with the colour grading being used. The antlers on it, I think, are supposed to look like they're painted on, but they very much look like they're printed, like they're transfers, because it's kind of this matte on matte look that makes it look like it's just been printed onto it. Kind of like the 3D, not the 3D, the printed armour t-shirts in the War of the Ring, right? It doesn't quite work. I think maybe it would have been more effective if they'd gone for a kind of etched-in design, because we have some incredible etched, engraved armour from the 15th and 16th centuries, and I think that would have been incredible to have seen some of that kind of decoration on the armour. But again, the shapes of the pieces look really effective. It looks like he's wearing armour, which is brilliant, because it so often doesn't look like people are wearing armour, because they're not. They're wearing costume, and this looks like a bunch of big buff dudes who are used to wearing this full plate harness, doing with it what it was supposed to be used for. Like, this is the purpose for which it was designed, which is great. Unlike, again, you know, the Rings of Power Green Man breastplate. For why? Oh yes, lots of nice things to point your sword at and target on the chest of the elf man. Like, just get real. Anyway, this is fantasy armour done right, as far as I'm concerned. House Fossaway, Stefan Fossaway, I think that their general gear is meant to look like a brigandine, which is a jack of plates. So it's effectively a vest with plates of metal riveted into it. But usually the only thing you can see is the rivets. You can't actually see the plates themselves, because then you can see the gaps between the plates. And what we're seeing them wearing is basically the classic Braveheart inside-out armour, where on the set of Braveheart, loads of the background artists put their armour on inside out, and so all of the bits that weren't meant to be visible were visible, and ever since then, fantasy and historical costuming armour has all of these weird, like, plate vest things. I think that's what we're going for. Actual brigandines look really classy. We have some late medieval Venetian ones that are covered in velvet. They're very rich. They're a very expensive item. And they're quite effective and popular armour for infantrymen in the period. They're less expensive than full plate armour, but paired with mail shirts, they can be extremely effective. So I think that's what they were going for. Fossaway's actual tournament armour, again, the apple and the vines, the branches and the apples on it look incredible. They look really, really good. But I feel like they'd get in the way of portions of the armour sliding across each other, especially things like the pauldrons moving across the breastplate. I feel like that might be a problem. And again, maybe engraving would have looked slightly more practical, but it looks brilliant, and it looks like bronzed armour, which is really, really nice to see different colours of armour, suggesting different cultural values in the way that armour is made and decorated. Again, really, really cool to see that. I think that's most of the armour I wanted to talk about. The clothing, by and large, I think looks good. It looks good. Lots of long flowing robes, lots of dresses on the women. We have a couple of characters in this who are sex workers, and they are kind of slightly tropily dressed. And, you know, it's a George R.R. Martin book. Go figure. And I like how many people are wearing hats. Mask and femme-presenting people wearing headgear is always nice. We have that in this show. Again, like in House of Dragon, where lots of people are wearing headgear. Lots of people's cloaks are pinned at the shoulder. It feels like Westeros has a fashion history, which is really, really cool. It feels like this has developed into a part of the way the world has evolved, which is awesome. Lots of banners, lots of pageantry. The comic book that came out, I think, does the surcoat thing better than the TV show. It would have been nice to have seen surcoats with coats of arms on them, because that is described in the books. People are wearing surcoats with their coats of arms. but the armour is so cool looking that I think I can forgive them for that. One of the other things I really like is the colour. There's a lot of colour in this compared to medieval historical TV shows. Okay, there's the blue colour grading happening, but there's a shot of Dunk looking over a campsite, and the tents, they're tent coloured. We've got like madder pink and orange dyed tents, we've got canvas coloured tents, we've got leather brown coloured tents, so it looks like these are real tents. Not the weirdly intense orange and blue thing that was going on in King and Conqueror. What's going on with the orange and blue colour grading on a lot of these shows? It looks like a real campsite, and that's really refreshing to see. People seem to be dressed practically most of the time, unless it's Dunk in the rain. But by and large, the costuming in this show is very, very good. Weirdo, honestly. Like, I was surprised at how good it looked. I was ready to not really like the costuming, but genuinely, I have a lot of praise to give the costume department for the Westeros set shows. I think it's very, very effective. I am sure you guys have some thoughts on this as well. Please let me know in the comments how you feel about this show. How did you find it? Do you enjoy the costuming in it? Do you think it's good? Do you think there's things that could be improved upon? I mean, the book itself could have more women characters in it, but, you know, obviously. Oh, interior lighting. I forgot to mention interior lighting. There are so many candles in the interiors of buildings in this program. The buildings look like they're actually being lit with candles. There's actually what I think is a really cool shot of Aerion looking almost through a candle flame at the camera, and I think that's a really cool, effective shot that emphasises the kind of lighting being used in the room. Maria, who's editing this, if you have any opinions on that, let me know, because you're an actual film school grad, but I think that's a really cool shot. Yeah, I think that the use of actual volumes, amounts of candles, is really refreshing. So rooms don't just look dark and gloomy, they look cosily lit with candles, which is what candlelit rooms look like. They look really cosy and nice. Yeah, I think that's basically it. This feels like it should have been a rant, but it was just a gush. So, you know, diolch yn fawr am ranto. Thank you very much for listening. Diolch yn wylio. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you are well, hearty, hale, healthy, and I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you have some thoughts to share in the comments about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. If you would like to support the channel financially, of course, we have the Patreon, we have the coffee. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd sydd yn gefnogi. Thank you very much to all of you who are supporting. Tan y tro nesa. Until the next time, hwyl am y tro. Bye-bye for now.
Big, manly, horny, helmeted Viking thanks to my patrons for making this video possible. Ho, 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 ho. Look at them all. You are all wonderful human beings. Masculine Viking thanks to you all. Ho, 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 ho. Yes. Yes. Delicious names.